Welcome to VLearn, Virtual Learning Network. This is session number 36 of India, earliest times to the 8th century AD, and the chapter is Changes in Economy. Topics to be covered are Introduction, explaining the economic changes, decline of trade, paucity of coins, decline of towns, agrarian expansion, rural settlements, new pattern of agrarian relations. Introduction. The Gupta and post-Gupta period was characterized by certain changes in Indian economy. There are many indications of these changes. Many important ceased to exist after the Gupta period. Many important things. This decline of urban settlements was not an isolated phenomenon. It seems to have been quite widespread. So a lot of urban settlements were disappeared after the Gupta period. Trade activities also suffered a setback because of various reasons. This is perhaps most clear from the fact that minting and circulation of coins were on a much more limited scale than before. So, after the Gupta period, after the decline of the Gupta period, there emerged the decline of various urban settlements also, because they were not quite widespread, and the trade activities also suffered a setback because the minting as well as the circulation of the coins were affected, and they were on a much more limited scale than before. Explaining the economic changes. How does one explain these changes? According to the assessment of some historians, the crucial element in the chain of developments was the system of land grants. Land grants grew in number in the Gupta and especially post-Gupta times and became widespread throughout the country. So land grants, grants on land, it started increasing in Gupta as well as in the post-Gupta time. Land grants were made to Brahmins and religious establishments like temples and monasteries on a large scale by kings, chiefs, members of the royal family and their feudatories. So land grants were made by Brahmins to religious establishments like temples and monasteries on a large scale. That was also done by kings, chiefs and members of the royal family and their feudatories. Decline of trade. One of the conspicuous economic changes in the Gupta and post-Gupta period was the decline of trade, both internal and external. So externally as well as the internally, there occurred the decline of trade, decline of commercial activities, and because there was limited usage and limited printing as well as the minting and circulation of coins was less. Indian foreign trade registered a peak during the post-Mauryan period, and when India traded with the Roman Empire, Central Asia and Southeast Asia as well. So Indian foreign trade also registered a peak during the post-Mauryan period. However, commercial decline set in during the Gupta period, and it became more pronounced by the middle of the 6th century AD. The inflow of Roman coins into India stopped after the early centuries of the Christian era. Other evidences suggesting contact with the Western world are also absent. So we don't have much evidences suggesting about the contacts with the Western world, but it is seen that when minting as well as the circulation of coins from India stopped, the inflow of Roman coins into India also stopped after the early centuries of the Christian era. Decline of towns. Decline in trade, paucity of coins and absence of coin molds and commercial seals indicate economic decline and fall in demand for finished products. There were less in the demand was falling for the finished and the manufactured products and services. There was also decline in trade. There were very less coins which were there, and absence of coin molds and commercial seals was also there, and it indicated economic decline. Towns which were active centers of craft production in the post-Mauryan period, the towns which were active centers which were producing craft in a big way, they were active centers of craft production in the post-Mauryan period, they also experienced decay and desertion. So the towns which were producing craft in a big way, they also experienced decay, and they also suffered a setback. The pre-Kushana and Kushana towns in northern India and those associated with the Satavahanas in the Deccan began to decay from the middle of the 3rd or the 4th century. So the pre-Kushana and the Kushana towns in northern India, they also started to decay from the middle of the 3rd or 4th century. What was true of northern India, Malwa and the Deccan was equally true of southern India as well. So what was true of northern India as well as the Malwa and the Deccan, that was equally true of southern India as well. Agrarian expansion. The epigraphic evidence suggests that we have for the Gupta and post-Gupta time suggests agrarian growth and rural expansion on an unprecedented scale. So the epigraphic evidence that we have for the Gupta and post-Gupta time, it suggests that there has been growth in agriculture, there has been expansion of agriculture, and there was rural expansion, there was expansion of rural settlements, rural areas, and rural expansion, that too on an unprecedented scale. The patronage extended by kings, princes, and chiefs to agriculture, improvement in irrigational facilities, increasing knowledge of agricultural sciences, etc., were some of the causative factors which strengthened rural economy. And also the patronage that was extended by kings, prince, and chiefs to agriculture. Apart from that, there were improvement in irrigational facilities, there were irrigation which was provided time to time, and also there were increasing knowledge of agricultural sciences, technology, and also there were new tools and equipments which were used during that time. There were less use of old weapons and technology. The technology was growing in the agrarian sector, that strengthened the rural economy. Decline of towns may have led to the migration of a number of skilled artisans into the countryside. Some of them even changed their vocation. So when the towns got disappeared after the Gupta period, the towns were also suffered a huge setback. When the towns declined and when they were not there, the population from the urban areas, they have led to the migration of a number of skilled artisans into the rural areas or the countryside. Some of them even changed their vocations, or some of them even changed their occupation and started doing something else which was suitable according to the circumstances. Advances in agricultural knowledge and technology. The increasing concern with agriculture can be seen in the detailed instructions regarding agriculture in the Brihad Samhita, Agni Purana, Vishnu Dharmottara Purana, and Krishi Prasara. So, the importance of manure for crop cultivation is clearly laid down in the Harsh Charita. It is mentioned that cow dung and refuge were used for manuring the fields. The Harsh Charita also speaks about different types of cultivation, plug cultivation and spade cultivation. So, there were also, apart from just the patronage extended by the kings and the tools and equipments, there were also advances in agricultural knowledge, agricultural sciences and technology. People living in the countryside, they were gaining more knowledge and awareness about the agricultural knowledge and the technology, how to use it. The detailed instructions were said regarding agriculture in the Brihad Samhita, Agni Purana. The importance of manure for crop cultivation, that is also clearly laid. The manure was considered very important for crop cultivation as it is used for as it can be used for the flourishing of the agriculture. And also cow dung and refuge, they were also used for manuring the fields. Cow dung and refuge, for manuring the fields it was used. And the Harsh Charita also, it speaks about different types of cultivation. There was plug cultivation and spade cultivation. So different types of cultivation was also developed during that period. Crops and plants. Varieties of cereals including rice, wheat and lentil, legumes, vegetables and fruits are mentioned in the Amara Kosha, which is dated to the Gupta period. So varieties of cereals about vegetables like rice, wheat, lentil, legumes, vegetables and fruits, they are also mentioned in the Amara Kosha. People possess the knowledge of fruit grafting as it is evident from the Brihad Samhita. Hyun Sang mentions varieties of rice, mustard, ginger, numerous vegetables and fruits. The Harsh Charita similarly provides a good account of crops and plants. So, good account of crops and plants was also provided by Harsh Charita, and people possess the knowledge of fruit grafting as it is also evident from Brihad Samhita. And Hyun Sang also mentions different varieties of rice, mustard, ginger, different varieties of vegetables as well as fruits. We come across references to different types of rice, sugarcane, mustard, sesame, cotton, wheat, barley and pulses. Rural settlements. Gram was the usual term for villages. However, all rural settlements were not of the same kind. We come across other terms denoting different types of rural settlements. Pali normally meant a tribal village. The expression Pataka stood for a part of a village. It was kind of a hamlet with name of its own, but actually formed a part of a larger village. The rise in the number of Patakas within the same village boundary evidently suggested the extension of agriculture. Settlements of herdsmen were called ghosas. So gram was that was a usual term given for villages, and also different types of rural settlements were also found. Pali normally meant a tribal village. So the expression also stood a part of a village, and the village that was a small hamlet, tribal village that was a small hamlet with a name of its own, but actually it formed a part of a larger village. And the rise in the number of Patakas within this village boundary, that also suggested the extension of agriculture. New pattern of agrarian relations. Obligations of the peasant. Land grant charters bestowed the beneficiary with superior rights over and above those of the inhabitants in the donated village or villages. The donce was entitled to collect all kinds of taxes. He could collect regular and irregular taxes and fixed and unfixed payments. The list of taxes in the inscriptions end with the expression meaning at cetera, which could be used to the advantage of the landlord even when necessary. So land grant charters, they bestowed the beneficiary with the superior rights. The beneficiary was benefited with the superior rights over and above those of the inhabitants in the donated villages. Feudal land tenure. Yajnavalkya and Brihaspati, authors of Smriti works, mention 4 grades of land rights in the same piece of land. According to them, holders of rights of different grades were the Mahipati, the king, Kshetras Vamin, the master of the land, Karshaka, cultivator, and the subtenant. Land grants led to hierarchical rights over land and sub-infeudation. The practice gave rise to a hierarchy of landlords which lived off the surplus produced by the actual cultivators. Growth of closed economy. Early medieval Indian economy experienced the rise and growth of a number of settlements which were not linked to exchange networks and long distance trade. Although the exchange networks did not entirely collapse, the transfer of settlements to various categories of donis had created a congenial atmosphere for the emergence of self-sustaining closed units of production and consumption. That was all about the village settlements, rural settlements, as well as agriculture. These are some of the questions. You have to do it yourself. Question number 1. Discuss the major advances made in the field of agricultural technology in about 5 lines. Question number 2. Discuss in about 10 lines the main features of agrarian relations during the early medieval period. That's all. Thank you. Happy learning. We learning.